Assalamu alaikum students. I am Dr. Chaman Nasrullah. The learning objectives of today's lecture are, by the end of this lecture, students would be able to describe the definition and causes of pleural effusion and ascites. They would be able to describe what is the heart failure, its causes, various types and consequences. Abnormal accumulation of excess fluid in the body spaces, that is the pericardial sac or a joint space, is often associated with inflammatory, infective or obstructive conditions and is generally referred to as an effusion. Ascites is the accumulation of excess fluid in the peritoneal cavity. The most common causes of ascites include liver failure when plasma protein synthesis is reduced, obstruction of abdominal lymph nodes, draining the peritoneal cavity, or various inflammatory conditions. This includes malignant disease because many tumors release pro-inflammatory mediators. Pleural effusion is the excess serous fluid in the pleural cavity. This is usually due to the infection or inflammation of the pleura or because of left ventricular failure, which increases pressure in the pulmonary circulation because the left ventricle is not able to pump out all the blood returning to it from the lungs. Now, what is heart failure? The heart is described as failing when the cardiac output is unable to maintain the circulation of sufficient blood to meet the needs of the body. In mild cases, cardiac output is adequate at rest and becomes inadequate only when increased cardiac output is required, that is during exercise. Heart failure may affect either side of the heart, but since both sides of the heart are part of one circuit, when one half of the pump begins to fail, it frequently leads to increased strain on and eventual failure of the other side of the heart. The main clinical manifestations depend on which side of the heart is mostly affected. Left ventricular failure is more common than the right one because of the greater workload of the left ventricle. The decreased renal blood flow activates the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system, which leads to the salt and water retention, and this increases blood volume and cardiac workload too. The direct vasoconstrictor action of angiotensin II increases peripheral vascular resistance, and this mechanism puts further strain on the failing heart. Now, when a heart failure happens acutely, the body has little time to make compensatory changes. But if the heart fails over a period of time, and then a lot of compensatory changes occur to maintain cardiac output and tissue perfusion, especially of the vital organs. The cardiac muscle fibers enlarge and increase in number, which makes the walls of the chambers thicker. The heart chambers enlarge. Acute, what is acute heart failure? A sudden decrease in the output of blood from both ventricles causes acute reduction in the oxygen supply to the tissues. Recovery from the acute phase may be followed by chronic failure, or death may occur due to the anoxia of vital centers in the brain. Effect on the body systems, they are variable, and they depend upon the cause of the failure too. The commonest causes, they are myocardial infarction and pulmonary embolism, blocking blood flow through the pulmonary circulation. The heart fails if it can't pump hard enough to overcome the obstruction. Severe cardiac arrhythmias, when the pumping action of the heart is badly impaired or stopped. Rupture of a heart chamber or a valve cusp both greatly increase the cardiac effort required to maintain the adequate output. And a severe malignant hypertension, which greatly increases resistance to blood flow. All these are the causes which lead to acute heart failure. Now, chronic heart failure develops gradually, and in the early stages there may be no symptoms because compensatory changes occur, as I have discussed before. When further compensation is not possible, there is a gradual decline in the myocardial efficiency. The underlying causes include degenerative heart changes with advancing age, and many chronic conditions, that is anemia, lung diseases, hypertension, or cardiac diseases. Right-sided heart failure, which is also known as the congestive cardiac failure. In this, the right ventricle fails when the pressure developed within it by the contracting myocardium is not enough to push the blood through the lungs. When compensation has reached its limits and the ventricle can no longer empty completely, the right atrium and venae cavae become congested with blood, and this is followed by congestion throughout the venous system. The organs affected first are the liver, spleen, and kidneys. Edema of the limbs and ascites, that is excess fluid in the peritoneal cavity, usually follow. This problem may be caused by increased vascular resistance in the lungs or weakness of the myocardium. Now, resistance to blood flow through the lungs. When this is increased, the right ventricle has more work to do. It may be caused by pulmonary embolism, left ventricular failure, when the pulmonary circulation is congested because the left ventricle is not clearing all the blood which is flowing into it, narrowing of the pulmonary valves, weakness of the myocardium may be due to the ischemia which follows infarction. Student, this is a diagram showing a complete heart, all of its four chambers, but here you will only focus on the right side of the heart. You can see right atrium, right ventricle, both of them, they are separated by right atrioventricular valve. The mechanism by which the right heart works, you know already. Right atrium receives the blood from whole of the body through superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. These two greater veins they drain the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium, and then right atrium, the blood from the right atrium that goes to the right ventricle by passing through the right atrioventricular valve, and when right ventricle contracts, then blood goes to the pulmonary arteries, and then it goes to the lungs for the oxygenation, and in this way it has to pass through the pulmonary valves. Now if there is pulmonary embolism or there is the stenosis of the pulmonary valves, then right ventricle will have to apply more force to pump the blood to the lungs, and obviously in this process right heart, right ventricle will ultimately fail. If there is any weakness of the right ventricle, then it will not be able to pump the blood efficiently into the pulmonary circulation, and there is ultimately failure of the right ventricle, and as it happens in case of the ischemia or infarction. In all these processes, when there is the failure of the right ventricle, actually the blood is pulled up in the right side of the heart, in the right ventricle, right atrium, and ultimately a back pressure develops in the major veins, that is superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. And this is the pooling of the blood in the greater veins that leads to the appearance of the various symptoms of the right-sided heart failure. Students, in this diagram you can see the symptoms which result as a consequence of the right-sided heart failure. Here you can see that there is ascites, there is hepato and splenomegaly. Obviously, when the blood gets pooled into the larger veins, it start oozing out into the peritoneal cavity, which is known as ascites. It also leads to the congestion of the liver and spleen, leading to the hepatomegaly and splenomegaly. Here you can also see the pedal edema. There is edema of the feet, and there is a condition known as the cor pulmonale. Cor pulmonale is a condition in which the right-sided heart failure occurs because of the lung pathologies like COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases. Now, what is left-sided heart failure? This occurs when the pressure developed in the left ventricle by the contracting myocardium is not enough to force blood into the aorta, and the ventricle can't then pump out all the blood it receives. The causes include ischemic heart disease, which reduces the efficiency of the myocardium, and hypertension, when the heart's workload is increased because of raised systemic resistance. Disease of the mitral and or aortic valves may prevent efficient emptying of the heart chambers, so that myocardial workload is increased. Failure of the left ventricle leads to dilatation of the atrium and an increase in the pulmonary blood pressure. This is followed by a rise in the blood pressure in the right side of the heart and eventually systemic venous congestion. In left-sided heart failure, exercise tolerance is progressively reduced as the condition worsens and is accompanied by cough caused by pulmonary edema. The sufferer is easily tired and is likely to have poorly perfused peripheral tissues and low blood pressure. Congestion in the lungs leads to pulmonary edema and dyspnea, often most severe at night. This paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea may be due to the raised blood volume, as fluid from the peripheral edema is reabsorbed when the patient slips down in the bed during sleep. And various disorders of the heart valves, they also lead to the left-sided heart failure. The heart valves prevent backflow of the blood in the heart during the cardiac cycle. The left atrioventricular and aortic valves are subjected to greater pressures than those on the right side, and are therefore more susceptible to damage. Distinctive heart sounds arise when the valves close during the cardiac cycle. Damaged valves generate abnormal heart sounds which are called as murmurs. A severe valvular disorder causes heart failure. The most common causes of valvular defects are rheumatic fever, fibrosis following inflammation, and congenital abnormalities. Now, what is stenosis and incompetence of the valves? Stenosis is basically the narrowing of a valve opening, impeding blood flow through the valve. It occurs when inflammation and incrustations roughen the edges of the cusps so that they stick together, narrowing the valvular opening. When healing occurs, fibrous tissue is formed which shrinks as it ages, increasing the stenosis and leading to incompetence. What is incompetence? Incompetence is also called as regurgitation. This is a functional defect caused by the failure of a valve to close completely, allowing blood to backflow into the ventricle when it relaxes. Now students, this is the diagram I have shown you before, but here in this case you will focus on the left sided heart. First of all, we discuss the mechanics of the left side of the heart. You know that left atrium receives blood from the pulmonary veins. It is basically the oxygenated blood which is coming from the pulmonary veins into the left atrium, and left atrium pumps this blood into the left ventricle, and this blood has to pass through the left atrioventricular valve, which is also known as the mitral valve. And when left ventricle contracts, it pushes the blood into the aorta, and the blood has to pass through the aortic valves. Now the competency of the valves and the ventricular walls is very important for the proper working of the left side of the heart. Now suppose if there is hypertension, that is there is increased vascular resistance, then definitely the left heart will have to work more. It will have to apply greater force to push the blood through the vessels which are having greater vascular resistance. Similarly, if there is the stenosis of the aortic valve, then left ventricle will have to apply more force to pump the blood into the aorta. Or if there is the weakness of the left ventricle in case of the myocardial infarction, then the left ventricle will not be able to pump the blood into the aorta efficiently. Or if there is the incompetence of the AV valve or mitral valve, then during ventricular systole, when the ventricles will contract to push their blood into the aorta, the blood will backflow into the left atrium. This will lead to the pooling of the blood in the left atrium, and ultimately all these events, they put back pressure on the pulmonary circulation, and ultimately pulmonary hypertension and develops, and other symptoms related to the pulmonary edema, they also appear. Okay students, in this diagram you can see the features of left sided heart failure. There is paroxysmal nocturnal dyspnea, that is dyspnea on lying down, when the patient lies at the bed at the sleep time. Nocturnal means at the night time. Dyspnea means breathlessness. Paroxysmal mean which occurs in paroxysms. Then there is definitely pulmonary congestion because of the accumulation of the blood in the pulmonary vessels. There is pulmonary edema, and this edema results in the coughing, and there is also the production of the sputum, which is sometimes tinged with the blood. There is increased respiratory rate. There is restlessness, orthopnea, that is dyspnea on lying down. That's why the patient feels comfort while bending forward. There is tachycardia, means increased heart rate. There is exertional dyspnea. This dyspnea is in severe cases occurs even on mild exertion, like the patient just climbs up 1 or 2 or 3 steps of the stairs, and then he feels dyspneic or breathless. There is fatigue. There is cyanosis. This cyanosis is because of the poor oxygenation of the blood by the lungs. Obviously there is edema in the lungs, and their normal function of the oxygenation of the blood is affected badly, and the deoxygenated blood that leads to the cyanosis.